The last couple of weeks, we've talked about what about the kids? We've talked about what about our money? And today we're going to talk about our emotions. We're going to talk about what about love? And it's not what you think, but since this is Valentine's week, it seems very appropriate to talk about love. But we're going to talk about loving ourselves. So with that, Allison, I know you have so many thoughts on this. And we've had some interesting conversation around it. And you mentioned that there's like three areas that is important for us to touch on. So let's get started with that first area of love that divorcing women find themselves struggling with.
Okay. So when you realize that your marriage is over and you're going to have to start fresh, we all have those three big fears. Am I going to be a bag lady? What about my kids? And will anyone ever love me again? And so today we want to address that question for you to make sure you know that this is not the end of your life. It is the beginning. Now, I don't know if you've ever met that girl, and I was that girl one time where a friend looked at me when I was going through my divorce and she said, "What are you going to do? How are you going to get through this?" And I said, "Oh, honey, don't worry about me. I'll be remarried within 2 years." Well, wow, how dumb could I have been thinking that surviving divorce meant just finding someone else to fill that hole in my heart? Thank goodness that didn't happen, because I'd have been right back where I was after my second divorce had I done that. But it really was a big part of what got me to write my book about what is truly surviving divorce. And what I've learned, and Elizabeth and I have talked about this and touched on this, is, there is love after divorce. But one of the biggest places in life that we get beat down when we're going through a divorce is how we feel about ourselves. And here's the thing: when we don't love ourselves, when we don't think that we are a good enough person, that we are worthy, any of those things, there may be other people out there who love us. There are other people out there who love us, our family, our friends, people we work with. But when we don't feel lovable, it's almost impossible to feel loved and to recognize when other people are trying to support you and to love you. And so today I wanted to talk about that path between where you're broken coming out of that marriage, where you're worried that no one will ever love you again, and help you see that by learning to love yourself again, learning to value yourself and everything that you bring to the table, that sets the stage for you to be happy and healthy and have a great life. So that should someone come along that wants to love you, you can recognize that they love you. You can feel it. And more importantly, they're adding to your happiness. They're not becoming your happiness, which is never a good place to be. So what do you think about that, Elizabeth?
Well, I think that's really a good point, because, and this really has nothing to do with divorce in many ways, because I think a lot of people do look to another person to make them happy. And it kind of takes me back to that Jerry Maguire movie where he walks in the door and he says, she says to him, "You complete me." No one should complete you. You should be whole as you are, standing on your own 2 feet. It shouldn't take your kids to complete you, shouldn't take a man to complete you, shouldn't take a job to complete you. It shouldn't take some passion of, I don't know, art or dance or music or something to complete you. You should be whole all by yourself. And then when you merge with another person, whether that's a boyfriend, a husband, children, parents, siblings, you're bringing your value and you're just adding to the wholeness that's there. So I think that's spot on.
I love what you just said, because that is so true. And one of the things is we're talking about, should I stay or should I leave? That's that big question. If I leave, will anyone love me again? If I stay, will he love me again? And in all honesty, the work that I do with my clients, whether they want to stay or whether they want to leave, is the same. It's about working on yourself. It's about finding value in yourself. It's about picking yourself up by your bootstraps. And one of my favorite quotes is, I know I'm somebody because God don't make no junk. We don't have to accomplish big things. We don't have to set the world on fire to be somebody, to be lovable. We just have to be ourselves. And sometimes that same process, while you're still in your marriage, of finding that faith in yourself again, that love in yourself again, will put you on that path to rekindling that flame with your spouse.
Or not. Maybe just
Or
rekindling
not.
that flame for yourself. But I do think that it shows when you value yourself, it comes across to everybody. And I think we've probably all seen those people that, that expression Debbie Downer came from somewhere, right? And it's that person that's negative, and negativity starts in here before it ever comes out of the mouth and onto other people. So it always shows up. And sometimes I think too, and this is kind of a good thing and a bad thing, but sometimes it's the fake it till you make it. Putting on, and that's not to say bury your feelings and don't be true to who you are and to what's going on. But sometimes standing in front of the mirror and smiling, and then at yourself, and then all of a sudden you discover you're giggling because you feel stupid and retarded. And then all of a sudden your whole demeanor changes because you just laughed. So I think there's a lot of little tricks we can use to sort of pull us through some of those moments that aren't so easy.
Oh, that's such a great insight there, Elizabeth. And, you had said earlier too, one of the things is that as we're going through our divorce, we have this, or, whatever's going on in our lives, we have this group of people around us. And when we're not happy, do those people lift us up, or do those people relish our misery? And what we find a lot of times when things aren't working at home is maybe some of those people that we're hanging around with out here are feeding that misery. They're stoking the fire, so to speak, to make you see what's going on and be unhappy with it.
I think that happens a lot. And that phrase, you're the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. I think that's so true. So you surround yourself with a bunch of people who gossip. The next thing you know, you're a big gossiper. You surround yourself with cheerful people, and the next thing you know, you're kind of cheerful. You surround yourself with people who are energetic. And even if you've had one of those days where it feels gloomy, maybe it's the rainy weather or whatever, and you get around people that are high energy, starts lifting your energy. Same goes for the negativity. And I think particularly when you're going through a tough time, such as divorce, being around people who want to constantly open up the conversation about all the negative stuff, like how he did you wrong, how he's a jerk, and they want to prey on that. First of all, I would say it serves no purpose, but actually it does serve a purpose. It serves the purpose of making matters worse. It serves a purpose of keeping you in a bad place and in a negative mindset and looking for the worst. I do believe that we see what we look for. So if you want to see something good in a situation, you will find it. If you want to see something bad in a situation, you will find it. So what are you looking for?
That's powerful.
And I think there's a lot of people that really love to look for and point out all that terrible, horrible stuff.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, oh, sorry, go ahead.
And I was just going to say, and where does that leave you when, I mean, it drags you down, and I think it leaves you stuck, hung up on looking. And if we're talking about a husband and a wife here, that are thinking about splitting up, and the wife's out talking with her girlfriends, and the girlfriends are saying, well, he's a this and he's a that. And remember that time he did this to you. And remember that time. First of all, that's not good counsel. And secondly, that doesn't help your mindset as you're trying to figure out where you are. So I think you got to be so careful with who you spend time with and who you listen to.
You mentioned the 5 people that are around you the most. And one of the things that I find interesting is if you really get quiet and sit back and look at the things that are going on around you, there is one voice that has the most impact on you. And it's that one that rumbles around in here. It's the one that picked up on when our mother told us, oh, you are just not a clean person. You're just not a neat person. Now, you may have been 8. You may have been 10 like me, and my mom had to hang the garbage dump sign on my door. But there's always that rumble in the back of my mind. Is my house clean enough? Have I got it neat enough? Have I done this? It's all because I haven't done, or I'm not an organized person. And then you layer, some friends, some husbands, or a husband that wants to tell you where you haven't done stuff, and maybe a mother-in-law and somebody else out there, that girlfriend who's having big problems with her husband. And so she's constantly feeding, oh, they all do this, and all the men do that, and all the men do this. Next thing you know, that's what's on that reel going through your head. Not necessarily your thoughts or the ones you even want, but it's you that you're beating up with all of these comments that other people have made that have lodged in your head and are telling you, oh, you're not lovable. Oh, you can't do this. Oh, you need to make more money. You need to keep your house cleaner. You need to be a better mother. You need to be all these things. When in the end, really all we need to be is ourselves. And we go into marriage, we look at our spouse, and we're trying to be the best wife ever. And as women, we may look at our husband when we meet him and think, oh, he's amazing. I don't really like the way he dresses, but I can change that. Well, because as women, we have this we can change things mentality. We like that idea of change, where men, if they like meatloaf today, they're going to like meatloaf when they're 90. It is the way it is. It's okay. That's okay. But the problem is when we start thinking we can change him, he's either going to change or he's not. And that can lead to dissatisfaction on our part and his, if he doesn't like the change. But also we think, I need to change myself to be a better wife. I need to change myself to be a better mother. I need to change myself to be a better partner in this relationship. And unfortunately, when we do that, what is the litmus test for what those changes should be? How is it that we think we should be? And the only role model we have is that good girl model that we were given when we were kids. What is a good girl? She doesn't talk too much. She, doesn't get overly excited. She's obedient. She's easy to be around, follows directions well. All this is a good girl. And we go into marriage thinking this is what we're supposed to be. Well, newsflash, where I got that description, I Googled qualities of a good dog. And that's where that list came from. Yeah. See, she's agreeing with qualities of a girl, and we all know them because we were raised with them. And it said, doesn't bark excessively, but yeah. So we go into marriage as this amazing, vibrant young woman, and we're trying so hard to be the best wife or mother that we can be. And we try to be the good girl. And the reality is you weren't raised to be a good girl. You don't grow up to be a good girl. You're supposed to be a good woman. And a good woman is a woman who knows her mind and isn't afraid to speak it. It's a good woman who knows she's strong enough to take care of what she needs to take care of and strong enough to ask for help when she needs it. A good woman
I,
is the kind that can see the things going on around them and know that she has enough value and knowledge to help. And if we have to change something, let's focus on changing, on being the best woman we can be, as opposed to being that good girl.
yeah. And I think the key there is the last part of that is, well, like, so the good woman, but then the best you can be.
Mhm.
And there's only one you. There's not clones of you. So be the best you. And I think we should strive to be that best person no matter what our circumstances are. And I think that when we start, and I don't mean this in a selfish way, but when we start focusing on us, not just our needs, but being the best person, taking ourselves, and this isn't about changing who we are, it's just about growing in who we are. And I think when you start taking on that mindset, it really does have a paradigm shift with so much of what you do. And then you can sit and listen or have conversations with people who see things differently. And instead of being ready to engage in a battle, you can just listen to them and be okay that they see things differently. And know that because you see things differently, that doesn't make your way wrong and their way right, or vice versa. It's just different. And it just, I think it gives you so much power, and not power from like a controlling of other people, other things, but a power in here of who you are, what you believe, what you stand for, that it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to disagree. It's okay to not be perceived. But just like being okay with you, with who you are. It goes a long
And
way.
that is the quintessential right there. And you wrapped it up so beautifully, Elizabeth, that no matter whether you stay or you leave, the only person we each control is ourselves. So take that time to step back, to reflect, to look at the people around you. Are they supporting you in being that best person that you can be? Are they supporting you and making you feel good about yourself? Or are they people that are negative and maybe take joy in other people's pain? It happens. And that's when you can say, who do I choose to be? And I'm going to be the best version of myself. And a lot of times when you take that journey of finding yourself, being the best version of yourself, you'll notice that the man that loves you still loves you. And he's happy that you found yourself again. And he'll choose to come along with you as you grow and as you expand and as you become that happier version of yourself. And then if they don't, like Elizabeth said, if they don't choose to come along on that journey, then you're stronger for it and you've got the choices to make. Honor yourself and allow you to be happy. And the most important thing is, no, divorce isn't easy. It's tough. But if it is the right answer for you, when it's all said and done, you will be able to create a life of love, laughter, and success on your terms. And that is priceless.
That is perfectly put. I think that's wonderful. And it's true. And that's really what it's all about. We only get one life. This is not a dress rehearsal. It's not a practice round. And so don't we all want to live our best life? I think so. I want to. The time would
Well,
just
and
slow
you're
down.
a perfect, you, Elizabeth, are a perfect example of a woman who's in her power You always have a smile on your face, even in the mortgage industry and the crazy world that it's in right now. You still have that smile on your face. You still keep going, and you do it for yourself. And that's what's so impressive, is that ability to just keep on going. And it doesn't take someone else. And even though you're in a relationship, you find yourself relying on that other person for your happiness. And when you do that, that's an unfair burden on them, just like if they look to you for their happiness. So it's about learning to be strong enough for yourself, in yourself, so that we can raise children, raise daughters like Elizabeth's mother raised her, with that sense of who she is and her worth that has never been shaken.
Yeah,
Unlike me, who maybe.
And I'll say, you know, it's not like it was like a perfect white picket fence growing up, but there was just something that my mother did early in my life that just laid a foundation that even when stuff rocked my world, and just like everybody else, it's been full of disappointments, or it's had its share of disappointments anyway. I do 2 divorces that were painful, but it never shook me from my self-worth. Now, I would question, you know, like, well, if I'd only done this or if I'd only done that, you know, I mean, that's human nature. We all do that. But I never thought, and I recognize they don't love me anymore. And that hurt. But it never once made me feel like that meant that I'm not lovable. It's just that they don't love me. Okay, well, so much for them. Next. And I laugh it off and I make light of it. It was painful. It was hard. No doubt. Rejection is hard. No doubt about it. But I think knowing who you are and being able to stand in that with authority, with confidence, with grace, it's just a wonderful thing. And I think I impressed that upon my 2 girls. I haven't seen any signs of them not having self-worth and seeing their own value. And I just think it's a gift that we can give to our children, our grandchildren, and we do that by modeling that for them. Because it's not something you can teach. You instill it.
That is beautiful, Elizabeth. And looking at the 2 of us, we both come from places. Elizabeth had that amazing upbringing and a mother who knew to instill in her all that strength and confidence. And, you know, it comes out. It's obvious. And even though I didn't have that growing up, I found it in myself. I found it in the world, and I found that same sense of confidence and strength. So no matter where you come from, it's still there for you, and you still deserve that sense of who you are and what happiness looks like to you. And I pray that no one else out there is sitting there thinking, yeah, but I can get remarried. I'll be remarried within 2 years and I'll be just fine, because that's never the solution. When you do meet someone that you might want to marry, I hope it's because they add to your happiness and they add to every aspect of your life, not because they become your happiness or they cover or mask the unhappiness that's been there in your life.
I agree. And that is best way to move on in life is with that. Thank you, Allison. This was actually a really interesting conversation. I wasn't real sure how it would go. I tend to stay away from some of the mushy stuff, as some people might call it. And Allison, you're just so good at it. So, and this was like really interesting. And I think I hope that this message is encouraging to people to go to look inside and figure out what it is, who they are, dive into that to get to your answers so that you can become the best that you can be. And it does take work, but before it takes work, it takes a decision. You have to decide that is what you want to do. And I think once you make the decision and start doing the work, you start seeing the payoff, because the payoff is like in your being. It's how you wake up in the morning, and it's best.
Absolutely. And you couldn't have summarized everything we've talked about here today. And whether you decide to stay or to leave, doing this work is going to make you happier and has the potential to make those around you happier, just simply because you are happy.
Please be sure to subscribe and share this. If you're not going through divorce and this doesn't impact you, please share it with someone you know that is, because I think this message is really good for all women, quite frankly. So please like, share, and spread the love.